Welcome to the video for today where we're going to be looking at solving one- and two-step equations. This is still more review from previous classes that you've had, so these problems should not be super difficult. However, going through them step by step, maybe you'll pick up a new tip that you haven't really recognized from a previous course or something like that. So the objective really is to get x, or whatever variable you have, by itself on one side of the equation. So how do you do that? How do you get the variable by itself and everything else from that one side gone from that side? Well, you have to undo. You have to do the opposite operation of what you see in the problem. So for instance, when we're taking a look here at number 1, I need this to be by itself. Everything else on that side is going to have to disappear somehow. So how am I going to get this negative 18, and note that it is negative, how am I going to get that to disappear from the right side? Well, the only way to get it to disappear is to do the opposite of that. So since it's negative, I'm going to add 18. And if I do that to one side, I have to do that to the other side as well. So now I'm going to cancel the negative 18 and the positive 18. I'm going to bring down my negative x. Remember, it is negative, so we're going to have to do one extra step there. Negative 13 plus 18, you can do that in your calculator, is 5. Now, we cannot leave it with a negative variable there. So the trick that you probably learned in a previous course is either to multiply both sides by negative 1, which is going to get rid of the negative sign here, right? Two negatives equal positive, and then your final answer is just going to be that x equals negative 5. Okay, if you didn't learn to multiply by negative 1 on both sides, possibly you learned to divide by negative 1 on both sides, and either way is accurate. Check your answer bank on your page there. You should see negative 5 as an answer, so go ahead and cross that off. We're going to take a look at number 3 next. In number 3, I need this variable by itself. So if I see that variable, I need to get rid of everything else on that side. And for our situation here, we had a positive 16, so I'm going to need to subtract 16, not just from the left, but also from the right. And that's going to allow me to cancel these. 16 minus 16 is 0, which is lovely because now I have my x by itself. And I'm going to subtract 16 from 46, which gives me 30. Okay, so the two problems that I've done so far, what you've seen is I had to add a value, right? I had to add this positive 18 to both sides. In this case, I had to subtract. And then I'm going to show you a couple of problems. Number 7, we're going to have to divide, and in number 8, we're going to have to multiply. So there's several different ways that you can get rid of those things that are not supposed to appear any longer. So let's go ahead and take a look at number 7 right now. In number 7, we have a situation where we have an x that is really close to another number. And that means that we have multiplied, though it's negative 7 times x right there. Okay, so how do we undo multiplication? If you're multiplying something, how do you undo that? Of course, you know that you have to divide. Okay, so we're going to divide by the number that is next to the variable, whatever variable it is. So I have a negative 7 there. I'm going to divide by negative 7 on the right, and I'm going to divide by negative 7 on the left. And that basically just allows me to cancel, because negative 7 over negative 7 is just 1, and I have my x by itself. Negative 126 divided by negative 7, put that into your calculator, you should get a positive 18. Okay, positive 18 should be on your answer bank, and you can go ahead and cross that one off. So we've done an addition type problem, a subtraction type problem. When we undo multiplication, we divide, which is what we did here. Divide by the number next to the variable, but make sure you do it on both sides. And then the last type of problem that I'd like to discuss with you in this video is like number 8. Let's take a look at number 8, where we have a variable in the top of a fraction in the numerator. So what I'm going to have to do then to get rid of that 13 on the bottom is I'm going to have to multiply by 13 on both sides. Okay, so sometimes you'll see it written as multiplying by 13 over 1. So on this side, I'm also going to have to multiply by 13 over 1. And remember, any number, any whole number, is really over 1. Okay, so I'm going to multiply on the left and on the right by 13. What does that do? Well, that cancels the 13, okay, by multiplying by 13 there. That gives me just b on the right-hand side. And then I'm going to, really the ones on the denominator don't really matter, do they? So I'm going to take my calculator out and I'm going to multiply these two numbers together. And when I do that, I see that b is equal to negative 234. Okay, cross that answer off on your answer bank as well. And another problem that I'd like to just help you set up really is number 9, because number 9 is kind of like number 11 as well. So those two problems will be done similarly. I had some questions from students about a negative sign that is in front of a fraction like this. That negative sign only applies to either the numerator or the denominator. It cannot apply to both. So don't assume that now somehow that turns into positive 3/5. The negative sign is either going to be assigned to the 3 or to the 5, but not both. So I usually just say that it applies to the numerator. So if I rewrite this, I'm going to have a negative 3 over 5 equals x times 15. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to cross multiply. In order to solve this, we're going to cross multiply or solve the proportion. So 5 times x is just 5x, and 15 times negative 3 is negative 45. Okay, and now that I've set that up for you, this problem should look a lot like number 7. If we go back up and check out what number 7 looks like, originally number 7 looked a lot like what I just set up for you here. Okay, so please solve number 9, and then of course put your answer down there and circle it or put it in a box. I think the rest of these problems on the front should be very similar to those that I showed you already. Okay, please check your answer bank to find the answers. If you make an error, go back and rework the problem. On the back side of your paper, you have 12 more problems that are now two-step equations. Okay, 2 steps means that it's not a real simple, straightforward solution, but you're going to have to do 2 steps. You might have to add something and multiply, or you might have to subtract something and divide. So that means 2 things you're going to have to do. The front side was just 1 step. Okay, please don't get yourself into a situation where you have a 0 on one side of the equation. So for instance, in number 13, do not think about subtracting negative 6 to begin. Okay, you always want to have something on one side of the equation. Don't just completely get rid of that. So that would not be the correct way to start number 13. All right, just as a hint for you. Also, you want to deal with the term that does not have a variable first. So let's take number 16 for instance. In number 16, I see that this term right here has a variable with it. So I want to start by doing something with this 7. How can I get rid of that positive 7? Well, I can subtract 7 here, and I can subtract 7 on the right-hand side. Okay, you don't have to subtract 7 from the negative 4b. So I'm going to subtract, which means that cancels this. I'm going to leave my negative 4b as part of my next step, and 59 minus 7 is 52. Okay, so for my first step, I subtracted, and now I have to do one other step to finish this problem, And I notice that I have a b here on the left side. How do I get rid of the -4 that is right next to that b? I know this is a multiplication, so I'm going to undo that by dividing by -4. Okay, because there's a negative sign in there, I also want you to include that negative sign when you do your division. This is going to cancel. Now we have b by itself. And b equals 52 divided by -4. And if you put that into your calculator, you'll see that b is equal to -13. And you can go ahead and cancel, or sorry, cross that off on your answer key. All right, our next problem is going to be number 18. In number 18, there is a little bit of different kind of setup here since we have a fraction. And that 2 on the denominator is what I want to get rid of first. So the first thing I'm going to do in my two-step equation is multiply by 2. And remember, if I do that on the right, I also have to do that on the left. So I'm multiplying by 2 on the left, which is just -8 now. And on the right-hand side, the 2 here and the 2 here cancel. And anything over 1, really, you don't need to write down the 1. So, what did I do for my first step? I multiplied for my first step. In my second step, how am I going to get rid of this in order to get n, the variable, by itself? Well, this is a +8, so I need to subtract 8 from both sides. Okay, and that's going to get rid of that. And when I add -8 and -8, n is equal to -16. And -16 is one of the answers in your answer bank. You can go ahead and cross that off. So hopefully you've seen some reminders here, things that you know already, but I just wanted to remind you of, and I would like you to finish the remainder of the problems. Let me see your work in all of those problems. No stamp if you do not show each step. So make sure you're showing all of your work, please. Thanks a lot for watching.